Good evening, everyone. My name is Derrick Spencer, and I'm the Associate Director of Development here at the Knowledge House. In my role, I work specifically with individuals as well as corporations. And one of the most exciting things I get to do with corporations is work with them to make sure that the students we have who will one day be their talent are the right fit, which is why I'm especially excited about today's conversation. Today, we will be unpacking the hiring bias in technology, specifically as it pertains to race. Just for a bit of context, there are about 3% Black technologists in the workforce and about 4% Latinx technologists. This is a little bit different from the number of technologists who actually have computer science degrees. Looking at my numbers here, I have 6% of all computer science degree holders are Black and 8% are Latinx. This shows us that there is a disconnect. There are more people with degrees than there are people who have jobs. And when we talk to people in the field, they are candid about recruiters going to the same elite organizations and colleges. And we know when recruiters go to the same companies and the same colleges, they get the same people again and again. So what can we do? Well, companies have taken notice since 2014. In fact, Google formed a partnership first with Howard University and then has since expanded to other historically Black colleges and universities. In addition, there have been efforts made here in New York City. We have NYC CEO, where we have a network of employer partners that have worked with CUNY system. In addition to all of this, we still want to make sure that we are able to reach people who are not associated with colleges, which is why we here at the Knowledge House, for the second year, are releasing our resume book. A resume book is an anonymized booklet of anonymized resumes without names, school names, and any other identifiers that would be revealing as to who the characters are, who the candidates are. This allows companies to have a more unbiased look at who they're recruiting. I'm joined here today with our panelists, Jesse Owens and Courtney Blount. I am excited about our two panelists here, and I'm especially excited since I found out they are both HBCU graduates, as am I. Jesse Owens II is a product management leader with over 15 years of experience in multiple industries, including fintech, education, consumer technology, and investment banking. Prior to his role, he was the chief product officer at Solo Funds, Techstars 18, where he led the vision and strategy of building a community marketplace that enables financial autonomy for all members through innovative approaches to consumer lending. And Courtney is a business marketing manager at Snap Inc. Throughout her 16-year career, she developed and prioritized growth within her creative outlets. She's an innovative and goal-oriented strategic leader with a proven track record in data-led, creatively advanced, and award-winning media campaigns. While a digital and social media marketer at her core, her experience includes developing and executing 360-degree media campaigns across a variety of categories and objectives. Welcome. So our first question, we're going to jump right in, Courtney and Jesse. How can companies do better about eliminating racial barriers during the hiring process?
I can kick it off. So thank you so much for having me today, tonight. Really excited to chat with you all. So, I think when it comes down to hiring biases, there's more times than not, I feel, and this is maybe just me being a person believing in the goodness of people, but I truly do believe a lot of it happens based unconsciously, right? We operate, I think, based on human nature, based on shared similarities. So the problem that happens, though, is that it becomes detrimental to organizations when we start to operate at how we do in our personal lives within our professional lives. And I'm not saying that to say like you have to like transform and become a totally different person in your professional life. However, you need to have that, professional maturity to understand when your biases are coming to light and when you need to shut them down. So, at a base layer, a lot of organizations that I've been a part of at Snap, et cetera, are starting with that uncomfortable conversation around unconscious biases, what it is, how can you avoid it, and like how you can actively play a role at becoming aware of them. So that's like base layer is like training. But then when we start to get into the interviewing process, there's like a slew of things that I personally think people may not think are super transformational, but these are these small like building blocks that are going to actually be the transformation that we want to see in the workforce. So when we think about, creating equitable job posts and what that looks like and how those are written, how the job descriptions are actually written, when you think about, the panels that are actually interviewing the folks and making sure that that's representative of a diverse population, going back to interviewing training. I've been in experiences in my past world in which I was just thrown into interviews and saying, Courtney, you're going to interview this person, but I didn't really have the training to be able to do that in an equitable way. So I think there are a lot of, like I said, small building blocks that we need to ensure are kind of like baseline standards. And then there's once you have those in place, I think there's so much more that you can do as it relates to like internal culture and other things to help make sure that that plays into your hiring processes.
Thank you.
I know I just said a lot, so I'm gonna let
No,
you go.
no. You said exactly what needed to be said. Jesse, what are your thoughts?
I think I agree largely what Courtney highlighted. I think in addition to that, unfortunately, when it comes to hiring candidates, interviewing candidates, oftentimes we fall into levels of being comfortable. So oftentimes when you have leaders, hiring managers making the decision to bring someone on to their team, the default is to go with a decision that they feel most comfortable with, that puts them at ease, that puts, however they constructed their team, it's the path of least resistance. However, what I think needs to be done is that there's just more intention on more sustainable recruiting, retention, development, and growth of our Black and brown people who come into these organizations. Because, oftentimes you'll see initiatives or you'll see, themes around a certain time of the year, and it's all in the moment. But in order for us to really see something of substance, is real intentional programs, systems that can kind of look at the entire journey and not just purely from a recruiting standpoint. I think in addition to that, I think being able to, what Courtney highlighted is ensuring that your panel is representative of not only the customers that you're serving, but your organization. Because as a candidate, you're going into a situation, you're going in interviewing with a company, having to almost make a pretty significant decision, because this is going to impact you personally, professionally. And if your interviewing panel isn't truly representative of the organization, that's very telling to the candidate. So I think from a just a representation standpoint, I think it's just important that companies really are intentional on ensuring that they have a diverse panel, such that when the panel actually debriefs, you're getting a diverse set of perspectives of the viability of that person's candidacy. I know we got a lot to unpack. I'll just start with, or just end with rather, ensuring that, we put people in place to truly champion diversity and inclusion, ensuring that at each touch point in a candidate's journey, they see people of color. And then finally, I think there should be some incentives to challenge our confirmation bias, or challenge what we deem as comfortable, what's good for the team, and really just challenge the norm.
Totally, definitely. And speaking of different perspectives, we have a different perspective joining us right now. Welcome, Ronald Thomas is a managing director at Accenture's infrastructure technology practice. He has over 17 years of experience helping Accenture's clients with digital transformation and cloud optimization. His core focus areas are service management, cloud optimization, workplace transformation, unified collaboration, and infrastructure automation. That's a lot. He's assisted multiple Fortune 500 companies in migrating over 75,000 users in desktop and cloud transformations. Welcome.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
So I'll open the floor to you. The question is, what can be done to eliminate the barriers that people of color, Black people especially, face in the hiring process?
That's a great question. And I got to hear some of the other panelists' answers, which was powerful, and I fully agree with. I'm going to go ahead and say we need to throw the book away. I think that's where we need to start. We need to completely revamp the recruiting process, the intake process across the board. I know at Accenture, we've pushed towards eliminating the requirement for degrees because that's inherently biased. Not everybody has the money, the capital, the wherewithal to go to a predominantly white institution. And a lot of these things are biased for where they recruit from. So we need to, we have to recognize that people of color, we're a talent. We are a hidden talent and a potential that has been monetized across every industry across the board. And folks are starting to recognize that the value of that, and they're trying to figure out how to tap into that and start to bring that into their workforce, not as at the lowest level and the most junior level as janitors and things of that nature. So what companies need to do is they need to reassess that. Most of the criteria for hiring people at the end of the thing is, are you feel comfortable staffing this person on your team? That is an inherently biased question.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, you don't feel comfortable with me, I'll tell you don't feel comfortable with me because I'm an angry Black man sometimes, and I get it, but that's going to be the case. So I think that we have to change the policy. So over the past 20 years, I think we've done a great job at trying to expose people to different cultures, societal norms, and things of that nature, which has been great. I think what we haven't done is really dissected the systemic racism that's built in all of these policies. So until we break from that, and we break from requiring these 4-year degrees, and we break from trying to push down compensation down, until we break from all of those things, the recruitment process is going to be inherently flawed. So I think that to start with that would be to revamp that entire thing from top to bottom.
Totally. And all of you have spoken about the macro level, how on the structural level we can make some changes. I'm interested to know more about how each of you were able to navigate this individually in your own personal lives. And you can go and whoever feels it, go with it.
I would have to follow up with, are we at what point in time in our careers? Because I would just say personally, my career it's taken many twists and turns from undergrad to now. So I'm really curious in terms of what part of the journey is more applicable for this discussion.
For the purpose of our students, I would love to hear how it was starting off, but for an empowering moment, I would even love to hear how it's now.
Yeah. So I would say that I think what I would say is kind of coming from out of undergrad, I didn't have the confidence of my education until I actually packed my bags, moved to New York, and started working at a financial institution. Reason of that because, the stigma of going to an HBCU was, comparatively with majority institutions, the education that you were receiving may or may not be there was just it wasn't necessarily proven, but there were just some inherent biases that you can just see in terms of which companies that were coming to recruit, and then just some of the profiles that you'll see kind of going into some of those organizations. So inherently there was just this almost like this imposter syndrome, coming out of school where am I good enough? But I think what was affirmation for me was kind of being a part of that analyst cluster at JP Morgan and getting to know folks from Ivy Leagues, from different institutions, and just feeling very confident in the conversations I was having with them. And not only feeling confident of not only my education, but my experience is definitely on par, if not exceeds kind of what was the expectation at the time. So I would say that for me, making the transition from being a computer science graduate to now being a software engineer at one of the top banks in the world, it gave me that confidence, but also it exposed me to a whole different world on things that we didn't really get to touch on in undergrad. So I started my career in 2007 and the economy collapsed in 2008. So managing your career in a financial crisis managing your career with or learning how to network while a company is downsizing and realignments and reorgs. And those are all things that you learn over time. And I would say that that journey allowed me to be a bit more resilient and being able to identify patterns. And it's really just around pattern recognition, whether that's corporately or from a tech perspective, to make your next move your best move in essence. Because when you're just coming out of school, you're not really equipped with all those tools that you would have liked to have, starting out your career. And you're going to make some, missteps, and you're going to learn along the way. I would say just making that transition, it took a bit. It was networking. I would say it was the projects that I was able to secure and was able to tell my story. I mean, that would just be something that I would just encourage anyone that's making a transition, irrespective of where you are in your career. And that's really what you can kind of speak to, but also how is your story, and how are people able to resonate with your story? I mean, just learning how to refine that over the years. I mean, really making the investment in doing storytelling, getting really immersed in kind of my vocation was really my pathway into from undergrad to the professional world. Sorry, I know I said a whole lot, but hopefully that was helpful.
That definitely was. Courtney.
I love that you hit on storytelling, Jesse, because essentially that is how I got my start in my career. So just starting out from entry level, I graduated from Howard University and I was feeling on top of the world. Similar to Jesse, though, I graduated in 2008 and it was a financial crisis. And that didn't even faze me. I had no clue what that even meant. But I said, I'm going to graduate with a physical therapy degree, and somehow I'm going to go into marketing and advertising. And I was convinced. I'm like, I don't care about the financial. Oh, it's a recession. Fine, whatever. And so all I knew was that I went to school for physical therapy. I didn't like it my junior year, and I knew my mom was not about to pay for any more years of school for me to stay at Howard. So I needed to graduate and figure out how I'm going to get to where I want to be, right? And so I operate in a world without limits. And my ability to tell my story, to allow people to bring them into my life experiences, allow myself to communicate effectively as to how I wanted to merge my passion with, my skill set, landed me my first job at an advertising agency. And so really I do lend kind of breaking through that barrier by just connecting with people, allowing them to, understand your story, see your shine, and confidently step into your purpose and where you want to be. And then, transitioning into tech, I've only been in tech for about 2 years. It's a whole new world, right? My skill set was transferable because I stayed within marketing, but tech is a whole new industry. And so, even, very senior into my career, I'm also working through imposter syndrome because it's a whole new playing field. I'm not used to working within a organization where the product is king and marketing is kind of not as shiny as it once was in my last roles at an ad agency, right? When they come to you for ideas. So it's a new world for me, but I think it's one in which, networking is critical. And so, I leverage a lot of my network that I built while working on the agency side to make my foray into tech. And that's truly been kind of groundbreaking in terms of getting me here today. But, I think all in all, it's kind of, you work through it as you move through your next steps of your career. And so there's going to be different strategies that you'll apply at different times. And sometimes they'll all merge together as one, but just know that it's unfortunately isn't something that goes away. And being a Black female, I feel like I always have to deliver at 200%. And that puts an extreme amount of pressure on myself. And I know a bunch of us are all go through that. But unfortunately, I think that's one of the ways in which I was been able to power through around biases that exist, because I know that if I'm coming to my interview, I'm at 200%. There's no way they're about to tell me that I'm not worthy of this position, because I know that I'm delivering my all. And so, good and bad there for sure, but it's something that unfortunately is something that we are all dealing with throughout your career. So don't think of it as just something that stops at entry level. It continues throughout, and as you excel.
Thank you. I needed to hear that. My background is education and nonprofit, and I'm still like, as both of you were talking, I'm like nodding my head, like yes, yes, I totally agree. Ra,
Yeah, I mean, I think coming into the game, I graduated and I thought I was on top of the world, and I couldn't get a job. Yo, it was tough. It was real. I ended up working on a help desk. I didn't even need a bachelor's degree to get that, but I took what needed to happen because I needed to stop paying some of these school loans. Um, Facts.
right.
Um, so, I did that. Eventually, Accenture came knocking on my door and said, "Hey, we got your resume from 2 or 3 years ago, and we'd be interested in talking to you." And I think I got in, and it was, I mean, I was on the grind. One of my frat brothers, believe it or not, was my manager, and he gave me some good advice and said, "Be the first one in and be the last one out. Make sure you learn everything that your manager's doing so you can take his job or her job." And I did that. I put in the work and I started mustering through everything and got to middle management. And I thought I was, making some waves. It wasn't until I want to say sort of middle management that I started to get, I was a little shaded a little bit, felt like I was getting snubbed a little bit. And I ended up talking to somebody and one of my clients, and he told me how much money he made. And I was like, and he was actually going to get fired, and I was trying to help him get a new job. He told me he made $750,000. I was like, "You make $750,000?" I was like, "People make that type of money?" I was like, "What?" I was like, "Yo," I was like, "Why am I working with you? Why am I advising you? I make $100,000. You make $700,000. I don't understand it." And then I made it my mission to double my salary. I think that year I doubled my salary. The next year I doubled it again. Every year since then, I've been added at least $100,000 to my salary since, because I can see it. And now I see the potential of it. And that's why I try to make sure I expand for people. If you can see it, you can achieve it. And I try to give that to as many people as possible. I talk about salary compensation on a regular basis so that people can understand. Like right now, the one thing I'm learning right now, which I got so baffled, I thought I was making a little bit of money. I was like, "Oh, I'm at 750." I'm like, "Okay, okay." And then I talked to my boss, and then he was like, "Yeah, I was blah blah blah." He was like, "Man, we got to find a way to get your salary up." And I'm like, "What do you mean? I thought I was." He was like, "Nah, man." I was like, "Well, how much you make?" He was like, "I make 2 million." I'm like, "What?" So I was like, "How do I get to that?" So I'm learning now. Like right now, I'm actually learning about wealth versus salary, and I'm now changing my compensation package into equity because I don't get taxed, and I doubled another $200,000. So it's like I started now. I'm investing differently. I'm planning. I'm trying to forego as much salary. Please don't pay me any salary. Just give me stock. Right? Give me Bitcoin, right? But I'm trying to figure out different ways because I'm recognizing investing differently. So I don't know. I think things have evolved over the time, but that's where I'm at.
Definitely. And you've definitely been able to adjust. I would love to know, and this part is a two-part question. What does diversity, equity, inclusion, justice mean for you all? And how are you how are your companies bringing those things into fruition?
Can I go first on this one? All right.
Sure.
All right. So what does diversity, equity, inclusion mean to me, and how the company can bring it in? So I'm taking a very different lens on it. I actually run IND for Accenture Northeast, and I'm taking a very different lens than what most people are taking right now. I appreciate the support that people are trying to give to Black people. I appreciate the dialogue and the conversation. All that is really, really, really important. I want to see the money. I want to see the equity. I want to see the how money is going to start to trickle differently. If we can't talk about sponsorship unless we're talking about putting money on the table to sponsor. I want to change everything. So what we working with within Accenture, where we are, obviously I talked a little bit about changing the degree structure and the degree requirement, but honestly, there's a lot of policies that are in place that are systemically affecting people of color that we just gloss over in terms of buying a home. And the program we're creating with Accenture help people buy a home for the first time. And you don't have upfront capital, you don't have a credit score, you got to pay more money, you got to pay a PMI and homeowners insurance. And you got to pay an extra $30,000 because you don't have a lot of money. Why? Because your mom and dad didn't make a lot of money, so you got to pay an extra 30% on your house. That don't make no sense. Companies need to need to fix that, right? You give me the money. I'm gonna work here. I make this money. Can you give me some love so that I can buy a house like everybody else? I think that we need to start talking about resources. We need to start talking about money. We need to talk about how equity, to me, is not about giving everybody the same thing, but it is figuring out how everybody can achieve the same thing. And that's the thing that people forget. People are like, oh, equity, equality, yeah. We're going to give you this. I'm like, no, I want to make sure everybody can achieve it. And one of the things we're doing, restricted stock. Restricted stock is big because I actually didn't even fully comprehend the value of stock and equity literally from a stock equity perspective, because, they gave me stock. I'd be like, oh, wow, I got $10,000. But my son had an earache and I had to take him to the doctors. I sold some stock and I had to pay for it. My car broke down. I sold some stock, had to go pay for it. Listen, that was the thing. And then I got this grant of restricted stock that I couldn't touch for 5 years. That stock, they gave it to me at, I don't know, $100,000 worth of stock. That stock's worth over $1 million now. And I'm like, wow, I had no clue. But as people of color, one, we don't give it to junior people. We tend not to give large stock quantities to junior people. That's one. And then two, we don't make it restrictive so that they can't automatically sell it. You got to hold on to that stock because it matures over 5, 6, 7, 8 years. So I'm trying to bring all of those things up front for people of color, and it's equal. I'm gonna do it for everybody. I'm gonna help everybody that needs the way to get a house. I'm gonna help everybody, but I just know that it's going to specifically help people from economically disadvantaged households and get it more. So I'm playing the same game, but I want to make sure that we can achieve better outcomes.
Facts. Once again, I'm totally nodding my head because I'm like, I definitely had to sell some stocks to do some things. And to your point, it's about equity. It's about making sure that everyone can achieve the same thing. Courtney, I'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I was nodding my head because this is the first time I've ever had stock or RSUs, what have you. So I'm like, when I first got here at Snap, I was like, okay, like they gave me some stock, like I want the cash. I want the cash. I don't have a backup plan. Like me working is what I have to do in order to succeed. I don't have a family that is going to be able to support me. So I need all the cash I can get. And again, I graduated in a recession. So even like a 401k, I was like, I can't contribute. I need every penny. I lived in New York. Y'all know how it is. Anyways, so totally hear you. And it's actually one in which like just recently I got a financial planner to help me like grow this and like not just have it sitting there and only Snap and diversify and all of that stuff. So like I said, guys, tech is a whole new world. We can learn together. But what it means to me, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's great. Like these conversations that we're having are amazing. And I think actually our Snap VP of DEI said it best. She's like, the conversations around DEI are well-meaning, but well-meaning isn't enough. And so we're at the point now where like intentions aren't the point. I don't care what you're intending to do. Like it's about impact. Like we need to make impact now. Because for so long, I think the work of DEI, especially within these corporations, were on the backbones of their underrepresented groups. So, I call it the Black tax, but I've had lived experiences where it's like, oh, Courtney, you're amazing. You're great. Help us find like more candidates like you. And it's like, I can read between the lines. You want me to help you find more Black candidates, more Black or brown candidates. I don't work in HR. Like that's not my job. I shouldn't take on that. That's not what you hired me for. But I took it on because I'm like, well, no one else is going to do it. I need to do it. Now DEI work is like everyone's work. And, I think at Snap, we're doing an amazing job, not only from like driving internal culture and conversations that definitely need to be had, sometimes uncomfortable, but I think these conversations are actually going to be the catalyst for societal changes. But also at Snap, we called ourselves out. We've released a diversity report, and the facts were the facts. we're not diverse. Like, and we wanted to create that transparency so that we can start to have this rallying cry of transparency across the tech organizations. What does this look like? How do we solve it? So we took it not just from releasing that report, but we took it a step further. And our goal was not only to improve SNAP, but as it relates to diversity, but to have an impact across the wider tech industry, sorry. And so we, in partnership with probably like 30 other companies, Airbnb, Spotify, Netflix, etc., we rolled out the ACT report, which is essentially the Action to Catalyze Tech report. And it's essentially where we're coming together. Like, we can't do this alone. Snap is not going to be able to lead the diversity initiatives across tech on our own. No, we need to hold hands with Facebook. We need to hold hands with Instagram, all the things, well, Meta, sorry, Lord knows. We need to hold hands and come together, figure out how do we model and incentivize inclusive leadership? How do we operationalize that? Like, actually hold organizations within our organizations accountable against DEI objectives within their purview. How do we ensure that we're sharing data? How are we transforming those future pathways in order to ensure diverse and underrepresented talent is getting into the doors? So this is something that I personally love, because I think in so many ways, companies are trying to do this in isolation. And let's be real, guys, we're fighting against a system that has been established for centuries and is not going to be up to one company or one marketing campaign that's going to do it. It's like, no, companies collectively need to form an alliance and put their money where their mouth is. Like, show up and take on the action. Because I work in marketing, and I'm about tired of seeing the Black History Month campaigns and that being the DEI check for the year and move on. So yeah, it's about action at this time, and I'm really empowered to know that I work at a company that's like really driving home that across the industry.
+1 on everything that Ryan and Courtney said. Only thing I will add to it, and I'll take a bit of a different perspective on it, is I think D&I also plays a role in the products that we build, and who we're building it for, specifically around language that we use, colors, accessibility, user experience. All that plays a role in D&I as well. So it's not only how we recruit, compensate, retain, grow, and develop our teams, our employees, but it's also like the products that we build for our customers, because that also plays a role in our ability of achieving some of that D&I North Star. So I think with that, you have to be very intentional on putting systems and processes in place that, irrespective of what you're building, if it falls short of our accessibility requirements or our ability to address individuals with, color blindness, or, being able to, view the content on different sort of dimensions of your devices, it will not make it, it won't make it to production. So I think D&I also plays a role in how we build our products as well, and who we actually serve, and being very intentional of what actually goes into your product.
Definitely. And that helps that bottom line too. And I know that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's not just a social component, it's a financial one.
And just to add another wrinkle to it, you'll hear like a common theme with companies around personalization. Why do you want to personalize a product experience for an individual such that you can further, you can upsell your product offerings, you can sell them products and services, and that's all. But I think you can construct the personalization experience in an equitable and affordable way. So I think that's sort of the challenges that we're seeing in product, or that's the conversations around, not being so thirsty for clicks or likes or views, and being mindful of the time spent using these products, and how can we ensure that consumers are using their time in a more cost efficient way, versus being so thirsty for clicks and likes and reshares that you end up distorting the whole experience in the product.
Jesse, I love that because that's exactly, I mean, obviously our camera is our hero, right? And so during conversations last year before last, actually, you know, called it out. The camera is actually intrinsically racist, right? And that's really controversial for a camera company to admit. But we want to be able to we need to represent our community at Snap. Our community is diverse. And so to have a camera that doesn't show darker colored skin in the best light, or also lightens people's skin because that's a beautification aspect, like, what are we really communicating to our community? And we came out and we said, we need to solve this. So there's a lot of work at the product level, which I love that you brought that up, because ultimately the products that we use are as equally important in terms of it, and equally important as well as the policies that we have in place. So
Definitely. We're also going to open the floor up to our students. If there are any questions you have, feel free to put them in the chat or use this as a networking moment. You can come on camera and ask your question out loud and directly. All right.
I love questions, so let's go.
I see one student had a hand raised.
I was just gonna say thank you for doing this for us. Raw, amazing energy, by the way. I love it. It's contagious, man. It's like being in the room with you. It's so cool. But yeah, I just want to say thank you though to everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
No question, just say thank you. That's it.
I do have a question for you, Raw. When I was hearing your story, you said something really valid, and I'm very curious about this. When you move to each job to increase your pay, what did you learn between it to increase your value? So think essentially, like, what should we take from you if we're gonna increase our value and in the future take the same lessons? How can we take the lessons you did in terms of increasing your value and apply it in our learning? Essentially, that's the question.
That's a great question. So I'll say that I did all of that 18 years in the same job. So I'll start there. But at different points in your career, you're going to need different things. So I'll tell you about that journey. When you're junior, you have to be very tactical. You have to be nice at tactical. You have to be able to get things done. Somebody give you something, take it, run it, get it done, knock it off your plate. Very, very useful skill when you're junior. As you get more senior, you have to have more people development skills. You have to have more managerial skills. You got to start seeing from like, you start to see things not on a day-to-day basis, but more on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And that's where you get like project management. You start getting more foresight into the future. And that's in any career, believe it or not. So you start to see a little bit farther. And then as you get more senior, again, you start to, the skill that you need is more relationship building, right? So it's more around relationships. So you go from being real tactical to being a people developer to being more relationship. And now the platform that I'm at right now is influencing, right? So it is really, how do you be an influencer? So the path from tactical, people developer, I would say people developer, relationships, influencer. So if you understand that that's the evolution from a seniority perspective, then as you're doing your tactical, keep an eye out for people development. Don't just do your tactical. Keep an eye out for, and that's the advice that my frat brother gave me was, take your boss's job. Well, what was my boss doing, right? And he was doing something. He was looking at project plans. He was understanding the finances. He was doing people development. He was doing the problem. Like, let me learn that. So I started to learn that. And then I started doing that, and I was like, God. Then I looked at the next boss, and I was like, wait a minute, what is that boss doing? So as I'm doing the things that I need to do to get promoted right now, I'm looking ahead. What do I need to do for 5 years, 10 years? What are those folks doing? Right? So I keep that in mind as I'm building the skills that are in front of me. And that'll help you evolve, because if you build your tactical skills, you'll be real good. And in 3 years, and because you might be people of color, you might get there in 4 or 5 years. But let's say we get there, right? But then we stop. And then we got to start learning a whole new set of skills in order to get to the next table, right? So, but if you keep that in mind, learn these other skills while you're building your tactical. Learn the relationship, learn the people development, and then learn the influencer. And the big thing I learned about the influencing, believe it or not, which is funny because you can be an influencer very early and very young in your career now, right? But what I've learned is it starts with authenticity. And it's real hard to be authentic, especially because we always constantly code switching. We're always constantly trying to assimilate. We're always trying to be the job. So how does authenticity allow me to be an influencer? And honestly, I come bearing as I am. My father was in prison my whole entire life. That's my life. My mother was a single mother. She raised me, right? But that's the skills that I got on the street help me do what I do. And I know I'm the best at what I do, period. I can move more workloads to the cloud than anybody else. That's what I do, right? And I'm confident in that. That's one part of me, right? And it doesn't matter. I can have dreadlocks, dreadful locks. I can have them and I can still move applications to the cloud. But I had to have that authenticity. I had to have that rawness. And I got to honestly, and my client right now doesn't like it. I'm like, listen, if you don't like it, that's fine. I can leave, right? But that allowed me to become an influencer, because then his boss was like, wait, why are you letting Rod go out the door? He's the best in the business. And I'm like, right, he don't want to work with me. I don't know why he don't want to work with me. That's his business, right? So point that I was trying to get is learn what people are doing 5 to 10 years from now in the same thing that you're doing, right? And study that. Right? Be the first one in, be the first one out, get on your grind and work for it, because you absolutely can achieve it. And honestly, especially right now, we have a unique instance in time where we can really break, crazy barriers right now. So run as fast as you can. If you need help, raise your hand, say sorry a lot and be like, yo, hey, listen, it's my fault. I'm learning, and just keep running, but don't slow down. Keep running.
I love that. And even just acknowledging my fault. It's okay. Because I know that's something that I had to learn in my career too. I think we have time for another question.
Hey, Raw, I got a question. Have you ever read the 48 Laws of Power?
I have not.
I mean, you embody all the techniques. Yeah. Like the way you explain it, like this guy over here, he got it. It's amazing. You should read it. Robert Greene. Yes, exactly. Yes.
I will take a note. Thank you for putting a wrinkle in my brain. I will follow up on that.
It's amazing, like, the way you structure it, like the flow. I'm like, oh, this guy over here, like, perfect example.
Thank you.
Amazing. No
I'm so
problem.
glad I asked you that question. That's a huge nugget. Like, oh my God, I really appreciate you saying that, because, I watch other people and developers and stuff. Even like there's a person named Coding Face. He has very similar mindset as you, but obviously you're in a different level in terms of like, equality and stuff. So it's just to have that golden nugget that you just explained about copying the people that essentially hiring you. It's like, wow, I didn't even think about that. Thank you.
Now I would say that with a lot of mistakes. I fail a lot. I embrace my failures more than anything. I fail on a regular basis. I'm not scared to fail nowadays, because I probably learn more from my failures than I do from my successes. So I have the support now. I've got the board, the sponsors, and the mentors above me and below me to be able to handle anything that I throw at them. And I fail a lot so that I can recover quickly. So, but thank you for that.
I'd love to hear also from Courtney and Jesse, what are some ways that you are able to be your most authentic self and still push the needle forward?
So I will say, go ahead. So
No. Go ahead, Courtney.
You sure? You sure?
Yeah.
I had that New York class. So
Yeah.
Y'all, Jesse and I are friends. So we actually, I think this is actually a lesson, right? So a lot of the times in developing within your career, it's like, make sure you have mentors, etc., like people that you can look up to. I think, and Issa Rae landed this, earlier on, but like you also need to network across. And so like I got asked to be on this panel, look on the flyer. I'm like, look at my friend Jesse. Okay, let's like look at that. Look at how we connected back from flag football days. But so that explains our banter, just to give you guys a little insight. But wait, I'm sorry. The question was what are some
Authenticity and
authenticity.
You're answering it now.
Yeah, I mean, it took a while for me to feel like I could be my authentic self. Initially, again, like I said, I graduated with a physical therapy degree. So I was coming into marketing and advertising, and I was just like, all right, well, I saw kids in the school of B wear suits and such, so let me go get a suit. And like came to my interview and had a suit on, and like nobody wears suits in advertising. So threw that out the way. But I think a lot of it has, like, as I've matured as a person and just felt more comfortable and confident as a person, I've been able to just like take the shields down one by one by one. And coming out of, like I said, coming out of Howard University, those 4 years, I had no shield. I was able to be my authentic self all the time. And I think that really actually did something for me personally to allow me to once I got comfortable in my workspace, be able to go back to that girl that was on the yard at Howard. And so, now that I moved into the tech industry, it's a bit of a different path. But at the end of the day, I work in marketing. You have to be a storyteller in marketing. I see value in my story. I need to make sure that I'm bringing that and articulating that in the way that I bring marketing strategies to life, that I bring kind of like organizational structures to life to ensure that how we're operating makes sense for the long run. So there's a lot of storytelling naturally within my job, which also allows the ability to lean in on my background and my authentic self. But it isn't easy. There are times where I've had to be at work and act like I was okay and I'm not. But it's also about being able to tell your coworkers like, hey, I'm here, but I'm not really here. And you gotta do that for you, because nobody's gonna come to you and say, are you okay? Like, never. And so it's all about learning and advocating for yourself and speaking up for yourself, because if not, somebody else is gonna do it, and then you're gonna be looking at yourself like, damn, that should have been me. So just stay authentic to yourself, and your story will always prevail. The story that you want to come to life is always gonna prevail.
Thank you.
I have a couple thoughts. I would say in terms of preserving my authentic self, I think it shows up in the way I dress and the music that I listen to. I'm just very intentional about feeling good, looking good, because that's going to allow me to do my best work. So it just so happens that is just part of the culture. That's just part of our culture. And I'm just bringing that culture into the workplace. But I think I'm able to kind of flourish because not only I'm able to represent the culture, but I'm also able to do great work at the same time. Because I think both of the culture and the great work can intersect while you're at the job, while also setting boundaries. I think it's also very important when we're navigating these corporate spaces that we set boundaries on when and how we're going to work, when and how we're going to communicate with one another, because you may run into some situations where a coworker or two may decide to get a little spicy with you. So you have to set boundaries and set some level of decorum on how you're going to communicate and how you're going to operate. And I think at the end of the day, they're going to respect you, who you are as a person, and your work is going to be indicative of the quality which you're going to bring each and every day. So I'll just say for anyone that's kind of listening, I feel like we're at that moment in time where it's encouraged to bring your authentic self to work. I too had that, that nervous energy of, do I want to show them all? Like, do I want to bring my whole self truly and fully? And to Rod's point, there's going to come a point where you're going to just stop having fear of how you look, fear of how you're going to be perceived, and just focus on the work. Because if you do great work, everything else is going to just shine through. It's an additive to working with you, because the work itself is really going to help accelerate your learning journey, your growth, compensation, and your ability to provide not only for yourself, but for your family. So whatever it is that allows you to do your best work, you do that and you double down on that, because ultimately it's your work that's going to be your resume, kind of what you have accomplished is going to allow you to take on those new opportunities, take on that new scope, and help and taking that scope to the negotiation table when it's time to make a move internally or externally. People are going to look at what have you done, your network, and ultimately what's your story. So I think all of that comes full circle when it comes to preserving your authentic self while still growing your career.
Definitely. Thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us, for sharing. This was all very good advice. I hope our students were able to take great notes. I know I was definitely soaking it in, taking in the jewels. Final words. I know we have about 1 minute but any of our panelists want to make any final statements about the topic?
I would say be very intentional about investing in yourself. You know, you may spend time kind of looking at what others have accomplished, what others are doing. You can't measure your journey against someone else's. You know, you have to be comfortable with your own marathon, your own journey, and making smart investments in yourself is really going to allow you to achieve kind of what you dreamed about and kind of what you desire. But you can't achieve that watching somebody else's pockets or watching what somebody else accomplished. And you have to really trust the process, and be comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's going to allow you to grow and really persevere when you do have those those challenging moments throughout your career or even in your personal life. That's just something that I would just tell everyone on this chat, is to really make smart investments in yourself, because you'll definitely see the dividends. And you can just think about the whole concept around compound interest. If you constantly make investments into yourself every day, then you're going to ultimately be, so much better at the end of the day. And just having that mindset of incremental improvements each day will allow you to, achieve what you're destined.
Thank you.
I'm reading the book Atomic Habits right now, Jesse, and that's exactly what it's about. Those
There we
small
go.
incremental daily habits that form into your, like, you look at the lifestyle you want to live or what you're looking to achieve, you look at the long game, and then you figure out, okay, then how on a daily basis do I start to do those things to get that lifestyle?
Right.
It's a powerful book. I would definitely recommend it. My kind of last rallying cry is to operate in a world in which limits don't exist. I know that's hard for us because we, Black and brown folks, we constantly are up against barriers. Don't think that, don't worry about the barriers. The barriers are going to be there for everyone regardless. Work and operate in a world in which limits don't exist. And I think you'll be surprised when you take a look back at where you started and where you got into, because you had the mindset of there's no limit. There's literally no limit to what I can achieve. And I think there's a lot of power in manifestation. And manifestation isn't just saying it, it's saying it, putting those habits into place, living the lifestyle before you get the lifestyle. It's all of that. But you have to truly believe that what's for you will always be for you. So move those limits out the way.
Man, I shouldn't have went last. I knew I should have jumped in first, man. They said all my stuff. I say get comfortable being uncomfortable. I say be intentional. I say break the limit. Oh my goodness gracious. Great points. I agree with all three of them. Those are usually my three closing points. So I'm gonna give you another one. And another one. So what I would say would be, the world as we see it today can literally be changed. And you have the power to change. The biggest thing that I've learned in the last epiphany of my life over the past year or two, I used to try to figure out how to change so many things, and this journey towards being an influential person. And I recognized the biggest thing and the only thing that I can change is myself. So by changing myself, I've unconsciously empowered other people. By changing myself, I've gave voice to people that haven't been heard. By changing what I do on a daily basis, I've been able to change the world. So the biggest thing that I could do right now is continually improve myself, improve my health, and be a good father, be a Black father, which is tough. It's something I want to do for my kids. But the more I can change myself, the more I can change the world.
Definitely. And one of the ways that you all can change the world and yourselves, our participants, is if you are not already a part of the Innovation Fellowship, apply. The applications are live until May 31st. You can go to theknowledgehouse.org/apply to put in your application. For our current students, that resume book is on its way out. So if you haven't already made the final touches, make sure to do so. For our employer partners, thank you all for being here. The resume book will be out early March, so you'll be able to implement some of the strategies we've talked about today by hiring some of our students. And finally, and I'm gonna have to share my screen for this one, this is a part of a two-part series. Our next event will be where we unpack the bias within gender. So we're looking at the gender bias March 24th If you haven't already, please make sure to register to get your ticket. Same time, same place. As I said, Constance, who is our Director of Partnerships, will be the moderator for this conversation. Thank you again to our panelists. Thank you to our partners.